We begin the hour right now with breaking news. Silfab Solar says it expects to resume operations at its plant there in Fort Mill at 6:30 tonight. This coming after the accidental release of 2 chemicals this week that forced a nearby school to close. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Thompson. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane now live. He was at this morning's news conference that unfolded just in the last few minutes. Richard, just during that, heard from a number of people there in Fort Mill. Not pleased about this at all, and I'm not sure that update is going to do much as far as calming emotions there.
Yeah, Ben, actually, I can agree with that. Good afternoon to you, Ben. Good Friday afternoon. Folks, if you've been listening to the news conference that was held right here at the Silfab Solar plant right here in Fort Mill, a lot of questions, more questions than answers, and a lot of confusion because even as you mentioned, just as we left the press conference, we didn't know if it was a leak, a spill, or something else. It started out when Greg Basden actually talking about it being a leak. It went down to a spill and then a small spill, a small leak, if you will, saying it was the amount of product that was actually lost, that acid that was lost was about 3 tablespoons enough. The entire time during the news conference, trying to deflect and saying that they followed their protocols, but did little to alert the public to the fact that this so-called spill, leak, drip, if you will, had started over a week ago that they knew about. They didn't notify anybody until this past Tuesday. Then again, talking about the fact that this leak continued on yesterday, they said they didn't understand, even though they said there was no harm to the public, why the school system or anyone for that matter would see or think that there was a reason for alarm. Rather than me try to break down what was heard and said in that meeting, let's listen to Greg, the spokesperson for Silfab, who runs this particular plant, what he had to say about people and folks need to be concerned or not. Take a listen.
You know, it's been a struggle for us to understand why this elevated to a point that resulted in school closures. Let me be clear. We follow state and federal protocols and procedures to alert authorities. We followed the protocols on Tuesday. We followed the protocols last Friday when the drip was initially found. If and when a situation develops that requires an alert and a response, we'll make those calls right away. That's exactly what we did on Tuesday.
So there you have it, saying that the drip, as you've heard, that's the third word that was used today, most prominently, drip, that if it was not to a level that went above their protocols, they would not alert the neighboring communities like the school. Now, there are representatives from Fort Mill School in there. We're going to talk to them about what they heard, what they're seeing, what they feel. Of course, we know the community will. Now, as far as that 6:30 announcement that they plan to be back up and running, or at least the assembly plant might be doing some work, when pressed on that, he said he's going to wait for input today from York County as well as DES. He says after hearing from them, they will hopefully move forward, but he didn't say specifically if they will be in service today at 6:30 or not. He did say he had support from, I'm assuming, York County when asked about the possibility of this plant being back up and running as early as this evening. Of course, we're going to have much more on this. Our own Anna King is inside, still touring and taking a look at that particular drum where that spill leak happened. And we will, she'll have full reports throughout the day, of course, here and in our mobile app. We are reporting live from the Silfab Solar plant right here in Fort Mill. This is Richard Devane. Ben, I'll send it back to you.
Richard, I don't know a thing about hydrofluoric acid, but I do know a difference between a leak and a spill and a drop. It doesn't do much to clear up.
Or a drip.
Yeah, or a drip. It doesn't do much to clear up any confusion here, or I think build trust. And I guess that's the thing here. You've got a couple of different parties here. You've got neighbors who are really angry, parents there at the school who are very angry. You've got Silfab Solar, but then you've got, he alluded to it, you've got about 700 workers there who have a job to do, who are employed there. and that director of operations tried to make a sort of a play to them, saying, hey, these folks need to get back to work.
Yeah, we also heard that. We saw actually, a couple people did come today to work that I know specifically spoke to, who thought they were working and then went back home. The parking lot was more full than this today. Now, they did say they notified employees, but I guess they've had their employees on standby waiting for the all clear that they can go back to work. Some employees, as they left, of course, would show us a hat or show us their support for the place they work. We understand their concerns, but just less than 2 football fields away is that school and the community just beyond that. And a lot of folks are very concerned, wondering, listening to that news conference, as Ruben shows you, just how far those lights you're seeing are actually the football field. And Ruben is a former football player. He said less than a couple football fields away. I said about 3. It's less than a couple football fields. So a couple hundred yards away is that school football field, and the school is right there. So maybe 300 yards away is where that school is, and that community right next to it. So as you can well imagine, people are concerned. I heard Greg, when he started the news conference, talking about they live in the community. I wanted to ask him at that time, but I was out here preparing for the 11:30. But I wanted to ask him at that time, how close does he live to this plant, or how close does any of his employees live to this plant? Just a question that I wanted to ask, because as you said, one of the things, if you listen to that news conference and you're a parent or someone who's concerned, I don't know how much they did to waylay any of those fears or calm those concerns down.
It sounded like, tell us more, it sounded like they were going to actually show the drip, how serious it was. Do we know anything more about that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's what's happening right now. Anna and Kevin, you actually might have heard him ask a question there, are going and taking a look at where that drip was, and they're in the plant. As a matter of fact, we were here earlier. We were told that, if we walked in, we had to have our phones taped up so we couldn't shoot anything inside. So they're going to allow us to go in and take a look at the drip. Is that correct? Actually, correct. Yeah, Kevin Wardlaw is right here right now, and you're saying you actually saw the drip. How big was it? Can you explain?
It was not big.
He's saying it was not big.
Pads under it and absorbent stuff to it.
They have pads under it and absorbent stuff. And what he did say during that meeting, that news conference, that he said they had another drum that they were going to pour that chemical into another drum, correct? But he had to check that drum out first. So there we have it. We have video of that, Kevin?
No, they would not allow us to shoot.
So it's just Anna King, and Kevin will explain to us how big that drip was, as they referred to it later. They started with a leak, then it went down to a spill, and now it's a drip. Can you give me an idea of how big it is? Just
maybe a foot.
Come on over here on camera.
No.
Just he's saying this far. He's saying this much. That's not a drip. That's not a drip. Even if the drum is huge, that's not a drip.
No, that's the area of the pad.
Oh, that's the area of the pad. Okay, so a pad this big for that drip is how big they're telling us right now. Kevin Wardlaw was in there. He saw it. He's relaying that information to us. He's going to be working with Anna today, get the latest on what we heard and also what we didn't hear. And at this time, I think it is 12 o'clock. Yeah, we're on the 12 o'clock show. Yeah. York County officials are having their meeting, so we should be hearing something from them as well and they'll have the information from what was said here today.
Yeah, if you're just now joining us here on WCNC, here getting an update from Silfab Solar and from our Richard Devane in the last few minutes. Silfab maintaining that their site there is safe, playing down any dangers to the community. This comes after a couple of incidents in the last weeks. Some say it's a drip, some say it's a leak, some say it's a spill of some somewhat hazardous material there, hydrofluoric acid, among other things. And Silfab saying it's a safe place to work for not only those 700 employees, but also the folks who live around it, the schools around it as well. You can bet we're going to be hearing a lot more about this. Richard Devane, also our photographer, Kevin Wardlaw on scene, providing a first-hand account. We appreciate it both. Thank you.